Turns out I'm not the only one exposing the media machine that is Hollywood, working overtime from the inside out to show you all the reality, the dysfunction, the control, the power. So today I have another very savvy blonde with me. And I'm so excited because this is how we are celebrating the 300th episode of Talk to Me, Taylor. Woo! And I wouldn't have it any other way. Okay, this woman has done such great work. It's so brilliant. She is sharing my mind. She is saying and exposing what I've been shouting from the rooftop for years. She's a fellow entertainment journalist and really, like yours truly, has done the work in going somewhere deeper and more interesting with celebrities. But as we all know, it doesn't fare too well. No. So recently, you have seen her everywhere. You've seen her from her resurfaced Blake Lively interview, her Anne Hathaway interview, in which Anne Hathaway personally reached her to apologize. So I'm so excited to share with you guys that she is on my platform today. I am also going to be on hers. And as you all know, I have stories galore from Blake Shelton, Jerry Seinfeld that I'm still regretting telling my dad. But today, I want to make this all about her. So help me in welcoming Kjersti, aka Kjersti Flaa. Welcome to Talk to Me, Taylor. Where do we even begin?
Deemed the Celebrity Whisperer by Playboy.
This is the best interview of the day.
Thanks for having me.
You hit the nail on the head.
100%.
Period, yeah.
Touch them. They're cracking me up.
Wear them, baby. She's good.
Taylor Ferber.
I am so excited, and I just want to say thank you for your work. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be on your show. I think we're gonna have a really interesting conversation today because I think, as you said, we have so many things in common.
Oh my gosh.
I'm so happy to talk to someone that really understands, because a lot of people don't really understand where we're coming from. So I'm very, very excited to talk to you about this.
I feel so seen by you, and I have to say, I'm not just tooting your horn here. First of all, we had such a great conversation catching up the other day. So if only everybody was a fly on the wall, but we're going to give them the next best thing today and give them a preview. But you speak about the reality of the other side that goes unsaid so eloquently and in such detail that I just commend you for that, right? And I want to hop right in to talk about the control. And I love how on your channel, you will talk about how, say, a celebrity is, for lack of a better word, a dick or not nice to you or is being a jerk, right? How for whatever reason, it's always the journalist and the reporter's fault. But B, how you're punished in one way or another, be it they tell you don't run the footage or you can't come sit with us, Mean Girl style. You can't come, work our events anymore, right? And I feel like this is so indicative of a culture at large in media. It could be politics, celebrity, in controlling the facade and what we see and think. So talk to us about a couple experiences that come to mind where you were doing your part, the celebrity wasn't so nice. It's your fault. You're punished. You're reprimanded in timeout. Because I think people really need to see and hear that.
Yeah, it's so interesting because after I started posting those interviews, I got contacted by so many other journalists who have similar stories. This happens to everyone. And the thing is, it's not really, for me, it's been like, oh, don't ask personal questions. You have to keep it to the movie. But the thing is, that's not even a rule that works either because, even sometimes they don't even want you to talk about the movie if they didn't like the movie or if maybe they have a feud on set with someone. There's so many reasons why they don't like a question. And so I think when I started out in 2007, things were a little bit different than they are now. First of all, you did get a physical tape with you when you left for the day. Today, they send you a link and then they censor whatever they don't like in the interview. So you don't even know if you get your whole interview when they give it back to you. And that could be anything, like ridiculous little things. And I've never actually had them confiscate the tape, but I think they wish they had done, like with the Blake Lively thing. But I had them call me once afterwards to say, please do not share this interview. And I had to agree that I wouldn't share an interview once. So that's the worst that happened. But I've also been cut in the middle of an interview with, people like Elton John. It happened with him. Jason Statham, it happened with him. And they were like, keep it to the movie. Next question, please. Like, and those were like very innocent, like very, questions that no one would have thought were inappropriate or anything like that. It's just that they need to have this full control of the situation. So,
and it doesn't ever win. It's like a lose-lose, right? Because we're reprimanded on our end for going somewhere interesting and deeper and different. But then if you're first of all, it's just mind-numbing. And that's why I so appreciate what you do. That's why I feel seen, because who gives a flying fuck about what your first thoughts reading the script and how did you relate to your character? I mean, literally, you can see them on autopilot. So nobody wins. They're miserable. They're sitting there 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
We're miserable because we have a whole PR team on our head in the cold, in the dark, like not scrambling around, all frenetic, right? So what do you make of, remember that I was dying for your take on this. Do you remember the Ask Her More campaign? Because with that said, remember that where celebrities were like, we don't want to just talk about our outfits and this and that. And I'm like, I remember saying at the time, when we do, we just get a slap on the wrist and punish. So like, pick one, right? What's it going to be? So do they really want to be, quote, ask her more? And secondly, I love how you expose and air out. We're taking everyone out today, no, single-handedly. But even the Elton John thing, I've experienced this too, where they are full well capable and have the wherewithal to answer something for themselves, right? But they're like mouthpiece. If their publicists say no, they just shut up and won't. And I always complained, like, you're your own person. You can eat, which we both know Angelina Jolie is like this, where she's like, no, I got it. So speak to that a little bit. It's like, do they really want to be asked more? And can't you just be your own person and speak up about something? Like, you're paid a shit ton of money to promote this thing, right? And be a public figure.
The thing is, I think a lot of the times they don't want to be there. And that in the first place puts us in a very difficult situation. You walk into a room to a person who is very like, sometimes they show you clearly that they don't want to be there. And they definitely don't want to talk to you. And for me, being from a small country like Norway, they're like, oh, it's Norway. It's far away. We don't care, So that can be kind of the attitudes from some of them. And also, as you say, if they don't want to answer a question, they can just say, oh, I don't know. I don't think I have an opinion about that. It's very simple. It's not like you have to have someone watch after you. That whole thing, which I think is a part of this whole wave we see now with all the enablers that have been, outed in Hollywood. Like, look at P. Diddy, what's happening there. So many people knew about it. No one said anything. And that's, I think, is the core issue here, that there's so many yes people and enablers around these celebrities that are letting them get away with anything, and they're protecting them, and they're protecting bad behavior. And I mean, what I experienced, like, someone I felt was being rude to me in an interview, is a very tiny little thing compared to, obviously, the things that are like serious thing and crimes like P. Diddy. Right. But it just shows like the whole culture of Hollywood that I think is just so hypocritical. And
as always, you hit the nail on the head with that. And what was so fascinating to me about your Blake Lively story and why it went viral, and by the way, what you do is so genius. Like, I've had Deux Moi on my show, and I feel the same way about her. She has a huge pop culture platform, is that you're not trashing and bashing them. You're showing in a really smart way, like, hey, here's the inner working, and here's how it's really dysfunctional and enabling, and this sort of cyclical toxic thing, which I really love. Journalist to journalist, you took the question and the words right out of my mouth, because with the Blake Lively example, I was going to say, like, what does this say about the bigger picture, right? And you just hit that nail on the head. But I want to talk to you about this whole idea, and you and I have gotten this a ton in our careers, of, they're just having a bad day, or they're human too, right? In the Blake Lively instance, she was rude to you. And everybody knows the story by now. I'm not going to recount it, but it was completely unnecessary. They were petty and catty and it wasn't cool, right? Cut to now, we see a story where it's like Blake Lively waited 10 minutes in a restaurant to, she's just like, you know, when she's just, what's happening is they're just like us. And it also, I feel like, ties in tandem with your Anne Hathaway story, because that's another clip that resurfaced when she was promoting Les Mis with you that went viral, where she too was really rude to you and the rest of the cast was really playing along. She recently, like I said, personally reached out to you explaining what happened. And I know you made an agreement you won't divulge, but I take it, obviously, there was some sort of personal thing going on that day, right? So what do you make of all of it? It's like, to what end, right? It's like, yes, you're people too, but we're people too. And how far do we let you go with this bad behavior?
Yeah, exactly. No, that's the things that I've been talking a lot about, I should say, on my channel. The thing that, you know, everyone can have a bad day, but I'm not allowed to have a bad day at a press junket, right. You know? I have to leave my problems outside that door. And, you know, if you're paid millions of dollars to sit there and talk about yourself and your craft, I don't see the reason why you have to be rude to reporters for asking you questions. If you don't like the questions, I mean, you're a grown-up. You can just like avert. I mean, they're so good at this. They're like politicians, you know, if they don't want to talk about something, they just answer something else, you know? So
exactly.
that they felt like intrusive or anyway. Like people did come out and criticize me after the Anne Hathaway thing and said that, oh, she didn't owe you an apology. And I was like, I didn't say ever that she owed me an apology, first of all. And I never said she was rude. I said that she made me feel like she hated me in that interview. And that's how I felt. And if people say, oh, you're not allowed to feel like she hated you. It's like, well, the thing is, the reason why that interview have like 13 million views on TikTok is because people were reacting to it in a negative way. And I don't know. I feel like you can never win in these situations. And that's what bothers me, because when people criticize you for not asking this, other people, you know, I just showed an interview I did with Richard Gere where he was sitting next to a director and I asked him about Pretty Woman and we were in the Pretty Woman hotel and he'd never been there, perfect. It seemed. Yes. And he'd never been there. So this whole thing that, you know, that they shot there and that they were selling this Pretty Woman experience there, that whole thing, I'm talking about that. But the point is that the director sitting next to him that was directing the movie he was promoting, which is called Norman, he was like, Richard Gere said, oh, no, okay, enough Pretty Woman, let's talk about Norman. And the director was like, no, I want to talk about Pretty Woman. This is so interesting to me. So he even didn't want to talk about his own movie. So, I mean, just these things that people are trying to like criticize you about, which I think, you know, was much more common before. And that's one of the reasons why I didn't post Blake Lively 8 years ago, because then everyone would just blame the journalist. But now people have grown up a little bit and try to see things from a different perspective and say like, hey, why should they be treated so different than everyone else, you know? And coming from Norway, where my culture is, we are not like that at all. So maybe that's one of the reasons why I've been like,
yeah,
why are these people being treated like, you know, like royalty? And just because they act in a movie and get paid millions of dollars, does that mean that they're better than regular people? So yeah, I don't know. I'm just rambling about.
No, you're not, and it's totally indicative of. That's why I was so excited to talk to you, because I feel like all of this, oddly enough, has happened at the perfect time, right? Because we don't know what to believe. Again, we see it across the board in media, culture, politics, pop culture. And there is an environment of enabling. And that's where, like, there's one video you posted that really struck me where you asked an actor about like turning like his big, I think it was like his 40th birthday, and the publicist was like, no, it's like, I'm sorry, are you asking to give like a prostate exam? Like, what are we talking about here? So that's where it's like, I think what you're doing in shedding light on this kind of David and Goliath situation, because it is, they have their whole people don't realize. And that's why I love how you describe it so, like I said, eloquently. People don't realize, you know, what goes on in that dynamic. So when they're dicks to you on top of it, it's just like, what is the reason? I'm curious what you think Anne Hathaway was compelled to personally reach you. And secondly, if you anticipate anybody else reaching you, and maybe it's for something a little bit more heart-lighted, like a story that I love of yours was your Ryan Gosling. By the way, I binged your entire series on this ever since the Blake Lively thing. And I'm not a binge watcher. I binge start to finish. It's so entertaining. And even though I'm so jaded and know this world, but I loved your Ryan Gosling story of when you were totally forthright. You were like, I had a little crush on him and I tried to flirt and it just fell flat. Like it was just not happening. So would you expect, that sounded so endearing. So would you expect anybody, good or bad, to reach you again, and why? And like I said, the first thing of why you think Anne.
No, the thing is, I was so shocked when that happened. The thing is, when I posted that interview, it wasn't a video about Anne Hathaway. I did a long video about when I embarrassed myself, because that's what I do a lot. I'm trying to show people like I made an edit of myself. I tried something, it didn't work. It did work with all the other actors, but it didn't work with her. And that was my point of showing that, I thought I had this smart question, which I still think is quite funny, to be honest with you.
Can you explain to everybody what you did? Because
so it was a musical and it was Les Miserables. And I think musicals sometimes, it must be ridiculous. It must feel a bit ridiculous being, acting in a musical, because you have to sing like conversations. And you don't even talk to each other. You don't have a dialogue. You're just singing the dialogue. And I think that's quite, it must feel a bit strange acting in those scenes. So I thought, I'm going to sing an interview and then I'm going to sing a question to them. And I figured out a really interesting, it's not even interesting, but I figured out a question to ask that kind of put that into perspective. So I sang, do you want me to sing it?
Yes. Well, you don't have to if you don't want.
No,
I would not warm up.
You're welcome to sing it, but I'm not.
What you did? Okay, no one wants to hear that but my shower or my 8th grade production.
No. I just did an Anne Hathaway, and you didn't realize that.
However, I will say that was good. However, I will say, she's the pro singer.
Yeah. Anyway, so my question was, were there any awkward moments like this on set because you had to sing and you couldn't talk?
I loved it so much, and I will not pull an Anne Hathaway. So basically what you did was, right, you sung the question and asked them to do it back. And some of them, like Hugh Jackman, he put on a full-blown Phantom of the Opera, like went for it. And it was so much fun, right? And she was like, shut that shit down, like mine down.
She's like I'm not going to do that, but you're more than welcome to sing. That's basically what she said. And then I thought, when I was sitting there, I thought, why are you so mean? And I thought, okay, I'm going to do it anyways. I didn't expect her to sing back. And that's what people have been saying to me. Like, why did you sing? She said she didn't want to sing. And I'm like, I said I was going to sing, but I didn't expect her to sing back. But whatever, the whole thing was that she was just being very dismissive of me, and she didn't give me any answers during the rest of the interview. It was like, no, I don't know. Yeah, it was very. So
what do you think it was all these years later that compelled her to respond? And also, like I said, my feeling was that it was maybe something personal going on behind the scenes in her life. Fine. I ask you because I remember asking Kristen Bell this very question. She was on, who's the greatest, by the way. I don't know if you've interviewed her, like consistently great every time.
Yeah.
And I asked her this very question of like, what, because I was interviewing her husband for his movie, and he's also the coolest, Dak Shepard. And I was like, you guys are so cool. Like, why are these other A-listers such dicks? And she basically said this idea of like, sometimes we're just having a bad day. So does the Anne Hathaway reaching out to you and what she said, like, does it make you think differently about that? Or are you still like, sorry, like no excuses, I don't want to hear it, people?
I mean, everyone can have a bad day, but the thing is, I was having a horrible year that year. I was like in deep grief, I was going through something really horrific, but I wouldn't use that as an excuse to treat other people badly. in a job setting, when I have agreed to interview someone, if I wasn't in feeling it, I would say I can't do that interview because I am not feeling good. I am in a bad place right now. I'm sure you can be excused for these things if you have a good excuse.
Yeah.
I just don't think that, just having a bad day and letting it out on people like that. I don't know if you saw the Chris Pratt comment yesterday in People magazine where he came out and said,
Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah, he said people come on set with a bad attitude and I don't have no patience with that. And he said, oh, you poor thing, living your dream and having a hard time, So,
and he walks the walk, by the way. Every time I have a great story with him, I can share on your show, but he's great consistently as well every time. But it's true. It's saddle up. What is this? Sorry, it's not kindergarten. We're not going to hold your hand.
No, exactly. So, I mean, I did appreciate that she did say she was sorry, and I was very shocked that she did. But I don't know if she would have done it if it wasn't for Blake Lively. I have to be honest.
Oh, do you think that's because it became so huge and it's kind of covering, saving face?
Yeah, because she wouldn't even have noticed. I mean, that video of them singing and she not wanting to sing, that was on my channel for 10 years.
Yeah.
So, and no one really, did anything about it. So I didn't post the whole interview with her because I was told to put that down after I posted it back then because she came off as unfriendly.
Yeah.
So someone that was working there said, please take it down because I don't want you to get in trouble. And I did. Back then I was like, okay. Yeah. So, but totally the other singing thing when she said, I don't want to sing, you can do it. That was up there for all these years.
You're I sober. You're it wasn't, you're pulling a friend. You're it wasn't my day by week, my month, or even by year. I showed up what is your excuse? Do you think that she reached you because she didn't know you would share it, right? So do you think it was in hopes that you would and kind of, like I said, save face? Or do you think it was completely genuine? Like I said, what do you think really compelled her? Because that is pretty shocking, right? Because they're so above it all because of these systems of enabling complacency.
I don't know. I don't want to be cynical.
Sure.
But I feel like, I don't know her intentions because I don't know her personally.
Right.
But I think it was great for her that she did, because she did what Blake Lively probably should have done to avoid the damage that it caused her. So yeah, I don't know her intentions, but I mean, I thought it was nice that she did apologize. And I asked her, if she wanted to sit down with me and talk about it. And she's like, yeah, well, you can come and interview me for my next movie.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I asked her, if she wanted me to share that she had apologized. I said, I won't share what's in the email, but do you want me to share that you apologize? Because I thought that was in her interest. And she said, yes, you do. You feel like you need to do to keep your followers in the loop or whatever. So, I think, but the thing is, why I think it's so big of her to do it is because we know that in Hollywood, if you admit to a mistake that you've done, that's a liability. And people don't do that here because then you admit from doing a mistake and people are afraid it's going to hurt their career. So no one here really ever says sorry.
It's a culture of silence. And sadly, it permeates into even more serious topics like you're talking about, whether it be Me Too, all of these circles and systems upheld. And I think that's what taps into the bigger picture of all of this. Be it that's why I love what you're doing so much, because not only does it speak to media and public figures and the people in our culture who really affect us, but all of us, right? And really exposing kindness and common human decency and how it's not hard. And so it could be something as minute as Blake Lively being flippant and not being nice to you, to something like a Harvey Weinstein or a P. Diddy, right? So that's why I think while we could write it off as celebrity culture, that's what you're really, the the hot button, like the iron you're striking, so to speak, right? With that said, is there something, we're going to wrap soon, but is there something that in sharing these stories, and it's really funny because I think you were recently literally on the cover of New York Times. So like if you've seen an awkward interview, most likely it was hers, right? Which is huge. And you had even shared to me, like, I don't want to become synonymous with this like awkward, cringe celebrity moment person who's like trying to get people to feel a type of way. With that said, is there a part of all this that sort of liberates you? And is there a part that still really bothers you and annoys you about the whole thing? Like, I know you and I are both a little arm's length removed from it all at this point, but how's that for you?
Well, what annoys me a little bit is that people think that I'm only doing awkward interviews, as you say. And I just saw that my channel is now, I think this week I will reach 100 million views on my interviews alone. Yeah. So, I have done a lot of interviews that I am proud of and that I really enjoy doing. And most people I meet are really nice. But now it seems like everything I do, I just make people uncomfortable. And that makes me feel bad. And the thing is, when people are pointing out like, oh, you're a bad journalist, you shouldn't have asked that. Then I'm like,
you come to your buddy. Let's see your interviews. Show for show.
Yeah, and the thing is, if I ask a question once that maybe it's not like everyone likes that question, the thing is, and it's not always that I wanted to ask that question myself. The editor of the show I was working for was maybe the person who asked me, do this angle of the interview, ask this question. So it's not even up to me sometimes what kind of questions I wanted to ask. And it's taken out of context sometimes because now I'm just showing little snippets of my interviews to make a point out of something. So that's been a little annoying. But what was the other part of your question?
It's the nice things? That's liberating.
Yes, of course, because we have felt for so long that you can't be honest about anything. And what I felt now, I don't know if you saw my latest video, but it was so amazing because this being so honest and open about things opened up new opportunities for me. And I was just, I did on Sunday, I interviewed Dolph Lundgren for his new documentary. We did a 9-hour interview. It was amazing. He talked about everything, like everything from abuse to infertility, what's it called?
That's awesome.
Yeah, anyway, death, cancer, everything in his life. And it was just like, it was so amazing to sit there and just like ask all the things that I've, you never get the opportunity to do that and to get a real conversation with someone. And when you have 9 hours, you have a lot of time to talk to someone.
Wow.
But so that's been really great. And it's been nice to be honest about these things because now I feel that the culture has shifted.
Yeah.
And most people are like, hey, why are these people so entitled? Why are they treated like so much better than everyone else? What have they achieved to make them deserve that special treatment? And sometimes, the answer is they've been playing dress up in a movie. I mean, does that really mean that you should be treated better than a nurse, than a doctor, than people that are actually doing some really good in this world? So
people with power, yes. And the crux of what you've done and what you're getting at, and it's the crux of my work as well, it's like just shining a light and peeling back the curtain of what's real.
Yeah.
And it's really important and refreshing for all these reasons you're talking about. Before I let you go and ask you one last big sort of like the big kahuna, because we know there are so many little things that happen that may not be in an awkward, like 5-minute junket footage, right? Like things like I have things like in the bathroom, in a trailer, and here, there. Do you have any stories that really stand out that was someone maybe like what we're talking about was really unnecessarily unkind, like egregious, anything like that you don't have on camera and that you haven't shared yet?
Someone that was really unkind off camera. Oh, I should have had some time to think about that. I don't know. I mean, most of the time when I've seen people off camera has been at like award shows or at premiere parties. And I feel that in those situations, people are always nice, they're dressed up and they know that they're there to like promote themselves or something and they're acting on their best behavior.
That's so true. It's very
so you don't
polarized.
get that. But I think
That's very true.
I think people, like our fans, and have walked up to people, to celebrities in situations where the celebrity maybe wasn't ready to take a selfie or write an autograph or talk to them. I think in those situations, you can have more bad experiences. And I kind of understand,
Sure.
for a celebrity, if you're sitting out having dinner with your family and all these people come up and want to take pictures with you, I do understand that's annoying.
I think
you can go home to your big mansion and relax.
Well, for us, and we talked about this, a part of it that's so irritating is we're helping them. Like you're promoting your movie that's making you a lot of money. Like I'm not just some fan ambushy, right? It's like you have no grounds or no audacity to be treating us this way. And, we talked about this, but it's like, if you want me to just spit out marketing points, then hire, this is what would frustrate me all the time on the red carpet at junkets. Like, I'm not part of your PR team. Like, what we're trying to do is journalism. So my last kind of big behemoth for you is the culture has shifted so much. And because of all of these curtains being pulled back, I understand somebody could watch both of us right now and be like, why do you guys even care? Like, given that it is so manufactured and artificial and contrived, and that celebrities are sort of like losing their weight, why do you care what they have to think or how they are? So what do you make of that? And why? Because I understand, because I shared a similar passion of like getting to something less superficial with them. Why did and do you do what you do? Why do you care? And why should we care? Or should we?
I think now more than ever, I'm actually a journalist in this. Before we've been like, I feel like I've been struggling with feeling that I'm a puppet for the studio or for, even though I've always done things my way, I feel like there's always been that pressure there. But now there's not. And now I feel like I'm being transparent and telling the truth. And that gives me, it gives me a lot of joy. I have to say, I enjoy more what I do now, like being on YouTube and talking about all of this with an audience there that appreciates it, than I ever did doing these junket interviews.
Amazing. Well, Kjersti Flaa, I and the spirit and ghost of Joan Rivers, thank you for doing the Lord's work. Seriously, keep it up, because I think it's so important. Like I said, it's so indicative of deep-rooted issues around powerful, influential structures and just inside society and, humanity and how we operate. So thank you for doing what you do. And I'm excited to hop on your platform next. Let's do it. We're on a roll.
Yeah, let's get over there.
Let's go. Thank you so much. 300.
Thank you. Thank you.